Well, good evening, everybody. We are here another Thursday night for Let's Talk About It. And guess what, y'all? It's an all women's edition. That's right. For Women's History Month, we are going to do an all women's edition. And let me bring up some of my women here that I have with me this evening. We're going to start with my favorite person. She's the one who brought me in this world. I always love my mama. That's Reverend Marcia Johnson. Say hello. Oh, she's still muted. Okay. And next, we're going to bring up another face, another familiar face to Let's Talk About It. She's been here with us quite a few times, and that is Miss Camille.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. And we have someone that we have met before. She was with us one time, and I'm telling you that we got rave reviews about her joining us. She did one of the therapy sessions. I can't remember specifically which show it was that we were talking about, but we are glad to have her back. And we have with us Miss Carlene Graham.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And we have a new face to Let's Talk About It tonight. She has watched us, and I believe Elder Hoskins was on one of her podcast talk shows that she did before, but she's new here to us at Sound Gospel Radio. Can everyone help me welcome Evangelist Kara Gerald?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we have a good conversation, a good topic that we're going to be talking about. It said, don't let these heels fool you. And we have so many different ways we could go with that conversation. And we're going to see where it goes, where we head to, how we get there. Tonight, before we get into the conversation, because I don't want us to get distracted. Y'all already see it on the screen. Production is already on it. If y'all can like it, if y'all can share it, what does it do? It puts us out there. It helps the algorithm. It helps us to be known. It helps everybody to pay attention to, Sound Gospel Radio. This is a conversation I want to listen to. This is something I should go back and watch. So please remember to like and share. As always, join us in the comments. The comments really do help the conversation. We love when our virtual audience joins in with us. And when you're in the comments, don't forget to say hi and tell us where you're from, because oftentimes we don't know where everyone's from that's interacting and communicating with us. So please remember to let us know where you're from. Now, how we gonna get into this conversation? Don't let these heels fool ya. Let's see here. Because I like my heels. I can be a girly girl. I'm a dainty girl. I like to smell good. I like to look nice. I like to smell nice. I like my heels, but that's not all there is to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes you got to put the sneakers on too.
Right. You got to put them sneakers on. You got to put them Timbs on. You got to put them slides on. You got to put them slippers on.
Get that
Yes, mommy, if you're talking, unmute your device. Because he wants to hear you. Yeah, come back in. All right. So as soon as she comes back in. So let's see, how are we going to go with this? Because we already started with we can be all things to all people at all times. And it's not an easy role to play that us women have. I'm not taking away from the men. Let's put that out there now. The men, they have their battles, they have their burdens, they have their crosses to bear. Mm-hmm. But today we're talking about us, the women, and we have our burdens and our crosses, and sometimes theirs to bear too. So
we wear many hats.
Many hats. And let's start with that. The many hats that we wear. It's a lot. Some of us are mothers. Mm-hmm. We're in the workplace. We're wives. We're in ministry. What other things are there? What else am I missing? Wives, mothers, ministry, aunties, sisters,
grandmothers.
Yes, grandmothers, friends.
Yes,
co-workers, all of that.
Yes, so many different roles, and you have to know how to adjust in each role, because in each role doesn't require the same part of you, the same things from you. So let's see, where do I want to start with this? So in the role, yeah.
Can I add to what you just said? I thought that was powerful. You said the many roles as a woman that we carry, and how each role requires a different part of us, which sometimes, I'll speak for myself, because you're extended in so many different ways that it appears that we have learned how to balance life, right? We've learned
Mhm.
how to balance so many different hats because I think God has just graced us and gifted, to be able to multitask because we do carry a level of pressure. Like I love me a good heel. I love the way high
Mhm.
heels make me feel.
Me
You know how
too.
it is when you're looking good and you got that strut in those heels. But what
Mhm.
most people don't know is that everyone can't walk in high heels. So
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes it takes work to balance and posture yourself in heels, especially if you're working in heels all day. And I think that also demonstrates sometimes the pressure women carry,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mhm.
life. Just like we wear those heels, we can wear heels, go to the supermarket and carry 5 bags with heels
Mhm.
because
And we
because
done
we're
walked
used to
around endless over with
balancing.
'em.
All day, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're used to balancing things, and sometimes people, sometimes our counterparts, we honor men and we thank God for them, but sometimes, like you said, they view those heels as just being dainty. But don't let the heels fool you, because on the inside, it could be a beast that could come out in a
Mhm.
good way. Though I'm not talking about
Yeah.
a bad beast. I'm talking about that. Don't let these heels fool you. Okay, I know how to work. I know how to do what I need to do and handle my business respectfully.
Right. And even I know we joked earlier about sometimes we may need to put on the Timbs, the sneakers, but how about us as women in our power that we can do everything we need to do? We can still boss up in the heels.
In
That's
the
another
heels.
way of looking at it. Don't let the heels
Mhm.
fool you. Just because I got them on don't mean I can't stomp with the big dogs. That I can everything that I need to do in the sneakers, I can do in these heels. If I need to do it in the Timbs, I can do it in these heels. That same time, don't get it twisted. Don't let them fool you. We some powerful women.
Mhm.
So
And that's a part of that balancing act. Like we balance on them hills, we balance those hats, we balance those roles. And those hills carry resiliency
mhm.
because
Yeah.
we definitely have an emotional resiliency to be able to do all that.
Yes,
Hmm.
definitely.
And
So,
having on heels sometimes represents different parts of us. Cause me, I feel most feminine when I have heels on. It just really makes me feel like a woman. I feel very in touch with my take them off, and then whatever the situation calls for in flats or if it's sneakers. And most people who know me know I don't like wearing sneakers like at all. I usually only wear them when I'm working out. But sometimes I put on an outfit and I look at it like, oh God, I gotta put sneakers on with this. Like that really grieves me to wear sneakers because it makes me feel what I think masculine feels like. And
mm,
I don't want to feel like that. I like walking in my femininity. But I would challenge us as we're sitting here. What was the first thought that came to your head when you saw the title? What does it mean to you when you say, don't let these heels fool you? Because for me, it was, I don't like people sneakers again. And when I do, they'll say, oh my God, you got sneakers on, because they're not used to seeing me in it. Or
Hmm.
they think, oh, I didn't know that you dress like that. Like what? They're sneakers. What does that mean? Like you have to have common sense. So when I first saw it, I was like, I don't want people to think I'm not just a trophy or some eye candy. I have some
Hmm.
substance to me.
Hmm.
So that's the first thought came to me. And it also made me think, don't take my kindness for weakness, because you see me all dressed up. Sometimes people
Yep.
tend to think we're timid or we're so dainty that we can't feel any other emotion. Like there's no frustration, no anger there, those type
Hmm.
of things. Like I'm not just a trophy or eye candy. There's substance to me. I can have a conversation with almost anyone on any level, whether I have my heels on or my sneakers on.
Yeah.
yes, I agree.
Many
Go ahead,
many
Camille.
layers to us. There's many layers to who we are as women. I'm like you guys said, moms, aunties, sisters. There's many layers, and it's not. It's about not focusing on the one thing that you're maybe used to, but it's like I can show up in different areas of my life, and and still be present and still be give it my all. So
Yeah.
And for me, there's a certain grace that I carry when I have heels on. I just feel like I'm handling all these responsibilities with grace. You
Mhm.
know, those hills represent, you know, like I said, that emotional resiliency, but even the frustration and the overwhelming feelings, being able to carry that with grace is a representation of hills for me too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think just to respond to the question that Reverend Marcia asked, Reverend Marcia asked, is for me when I first saw the topic, I think when Nathan sent it to me, and I said, oh, wow, so I love this topic. And immediately I thought, don't let these hills fool you. And I immediately thought about, don't think that I'm unable to complete the assignment. Do not think that I'm unable to do the work just because, I have these heels, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am able to complete it. I am able to succeed, in with what I put my mind to. So what I have on my feet doesn't stop me, but it's what's inside of me, that resiliency to be able to, and that perseverance. I think, throughout history, we know society has, like I say, put this unrealistic pressure on women and caused some women to hate their femininity,
Mm-hmm.
to, hate who they are. So they feel as though they have to alter who they are just to fit in, to complete a job, or just to stand out, and not embrace that femininity and who we are. So so don't let these hills fool you. I'm able to do all that God has set out, before me to do in hills if I have to.
Right.
Right.
Or put my Tim's on. However I need to present myself, I'm able to show up.
Yes. That before we move forward, let me just acknowledge our audience. We have a few comments here. Of course, we have Pastor Hamid Washington. Good to see you, sir. And Kayshawn Ford. Hey, Kayshawn, how you doing? Of course, we have founder and elder here saying good evening, everyone. And we have Nellie Crystal saying hello, hello. Tiffany,
Hey.
Tiffany, it's so good to see you. She's here to join us for Women's History Month, and she says she loves the title. Thank you. Now, how about the stereotype that sometimes comes with women in heels, that we're too emotional and that we can't lead because we're always in our feelings, always in our emotions. We're always like we are not incapable of thinking logically and able to lead. Mm.
My answer is the same. Why I said I'm more than eye candy or a trophy. There's substance to me because when I looked at answering really how what heels mean to us and how we feel in them, but the title to me is a statement or a response to someone based on their opinion. When they see us as women or in heels, they automatically think that it's something inferior to what should be expected to be accomplished. Like, oh, it's just a woman. So they already package it and all these other things that come because of heels, really. Because at last time I looked, I'm seeing some men's shoes got some heels on it higher than the ones I saw my dad wearing. So don't go there with that. Like,
Yes, this is Prince Victorious walking
I
around
feel
in
like
some.
hmm I feel like sometimes being in a leadership position too, sometimes you're not fully given the credit for your intellect, for your skill set.
mhm.
And I feel like sometimes there's even tone policing that goes on, how you advocate or your advocacy style or your passion. It's like, some terms like, calm down, it's not that serious, or, don't get so
Mhm.
emotional. When advocacy causes for passion,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
advocating for injustice and
Yep.
advocating for things to be a certain way, it causes for a certain passion. So sometimes there's a misconception that those hills just carry emotion, but it carries the brains behind it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I think leading with empathy and your emotion is never wrong. I feel
Mhm.
like as long as you're not, um, as long as it's not negative, like people respond better to empathy and that compassion. And I find that even in my line of work in recruiting, when I approach a candidate and I kind of meet them where they are in life, I found more success and was able to tap into, why they're here, why they're looking for work, what's going on at home, and they've just been able to soften and really share, and I'm able to help them even more and guide them to what position would be best for them. So like when you lead with that empathy and compassion, yeah, I think it really just taps into the best in people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
I
us,
agree with.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Julie. Say.
No, I was just going to piggyback on the empathy. I believe us as women, not saying that men can't be empathetic, but I would like for us as women in general, the things that people try to attribute or make them negative, why can't we stop viewing them as negative? Being empathetic is not a weakness or a quality of weakness. Being
Mhm.
emotional or willing to express your emotion in a moment doesn't make you weak. If you cry, it doesn't necessarily make you weak. If you're upset and you express being upset, it doesn't mean that you're weak or that that's a weakness. A lot of times that's what makes us one of what makes us our superpowers is what makes us, it gives us an
Yep.
edge over others in certain instances because we're able to tap into the feeling, we're able to tap into the emotion, and that we're not afraid to go there. There's a lot of times where others they're afraid to tap into it, and I can understand why, because society, it's taboo for men to oftentimes publicly express emotion, and whereas women it's a bit more free for us to do that, or it's a bit more tolerated and accepted for us
Expected.
Right.
that too, for
Yeah.
us to express
Mm.
emotion, but that doesn't mean it's a negative. It doesn't mean it's a weakness. Kara, you were going to say something? You still-
Everyone. I'm sorry, just I think what Camille and Jaleesa just stated about leading with empathy and compassion. I think that it is a gift that we're able to
Mhm.
such, and with that gift sometimes it could be viewed as a threat, and so instead of one embracing that gift, they'll describe it or coin it as being emotional, being unsettled, being unable to lead, which if a woman isn't confident in who she is, then she'll begin to hide herself
Mhm.
and present something that she is not. And
Mhm.
so it really is unfortunate. And again, it goes back to the pressure as
Mhm.
women. We have to, in the field of work, when I work, the field that I work with, and there's a female in our city. She is an engineer. Now, that particular field, she's the city engineer, and that particular field is a male dominant field. And she is like one of the highest ranking there and leads. And she and I talked, and she was just speaking about the pressure and how she has to keep this posture of just being tough, and just like you said, never expressing any emotion just so she can gain or earn respect. And so it's unfortunate. It really is. It's
Mhm.
really unfortunate. But like I said, I think as women, and particularly within this month, that I know for me that I'm learning how to lead with grace and lead with um, being confident that this is who I am, and this is who God has created me to be. So I'm going to show empathy, I'm going to show compassion, and I'm going to get the work done.
Yeah, totally agree. Um, it's funny, Nathan and I was on Hulu, Roku. We're doing something, and we were just scrolling through the OWN network. And I don't know why this past Saturday I was just interested, just scrolling through the different shows on there, and they had Oprah's 25th season, the season that she retired. Like they did like behind the scenes things, and for some reason I was just interested. I watched it from Saturday. I think we finished it maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, but it was just interesting to see and watch the behind the scenes of the production of her show, but not just the show itself, but how she led her team, how she led her staff as a
Yeah.
woman to get to the status that she has gotten to as a Black woman at that in daytime TV, and the influence that she had and the power that she had. It was just interesting to watch her be completely who she is. Because if anybody watched Oprah, Oprah would cry in a heartbeat. She was she was offbeat, she was crying, she was
Mhm.
empathetic, but she also still had a way of connecting with people and interacting with people and interviewing with people that made them comfortable enough to even want to come on
Mhm.
her show,
Yeah.
comfortable enough to talked to her and she got a lot of the answers that people were wanting. That's the whole reason why her show was able to last as long as it was. But I just found it interesting that she was able to get to where she was. One, she was just completely who she was, and she wasn't worried about other people's feelings when it came to her leadership style. Because sometimes we can get too, well, I have been guilty of getting into I don't want to offend, I don't want to hurt their feelings. You know they're going to be upset, but you're trying to find ways to avoid being upset. And sometimes they're just going to be upset, and you just have to deal with it. But at the end
No
of the
matter
day,
what you do.
yeah, they either gonna get over it and do what you ask them to do, or they gonna step in the name of love, and we'll just be all right with it.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that I
Yeah.
just thought was so interesting. Go ahead. Camille, you were about to say something.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
I wanted to piggyback on what you said about the intimidation when it comes to sharing your feelings or crying or your emotion. You all know that I am a therapist, and sometimes the most resistance I see is when they start to feel like they want to cry. So a lot of times I say, the first sign of life is crying. So when you think of it in that aspect, it really takes that emotion and the tears and these heels and everything else to make up who we are and allow us to wear those hats and have those roles. Because if we didn't cry and let some of that emotion out with everything that we do, it wouldn't be healthy for us either.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I wear empathy. For me, empathy is my badge of honor, and the compassion, because I do as a minister and I do counseling. And can I say I do it with men, women, and children? And I have men who feel talking with me is that safe shell break. Even it's okay to cry, because sometimes it helps when they can identify, or you can identify when you share maybe an experience of your own. And I don't hold back the crying. And I always say that I have a rule that no one is allowed to cry alone in my presence. So if you cry, I'm probably going to cry too. And I've watched men, they'll try to fight it. And sometimes just saying nothing, I don't say it's okay, or you can go ahead, just let it be. And I used to try to hold crying because I've always been very sympathetic and empathetic. I can feel other people's pain sometimes. And I was made to feel growing up sign of weakness. But it's ironic that my dad taught me it was okay for you to feel what you're feeling. And if you cry, it doesn't mean that you're weak all the time. Sometimes I cry when I'm happy. I cry for other people when they're happy. So when you become confident though, and knowing who you are, someone else can't shame you into stifling that. But when you're relating to and with other people, sometimes when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and it's not used against them later, they'll open up, they'll let that yoke break, and then you can make progress from there. But that's, to me, part of, I know it is my femininity. I'm okay with crying. I don't care. You don't have to try to console me, because sometimes you're consoling me and I'm not sad. I'm happy, or it's a relief, it's a breakthrough. So, and I want other people to be able to relate to that. And more than one person has said to me that I'm that safe place. And I quote, I'll take that. That makes me feel honored that somebody feels safe enough in my presence, because I know women who aren't in touch with like their feminine side, the nurturer in them is not there. There's an imbalance there. So they're real hardcore, and they have sons or brothers, and that could have something to do with it. So they don't like to show that feminine sons, and they begin to cry. The first thing they say is man up. That's where that starts, though. Sometimes that seed is planted when they're young. So they think crying is related to us, the heel wearers. Like that's for the women to do. But if you're human, you're going to feel something sometime. And I don't care what it is. Sometimes you have to shed some tears, or you have to just say, I'm tired, or I don't know what to do. But when you lead with empathy like that, when people know that you're really caring about how they feel about something, what it means to them, that allows them a freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, since we're talking about empathy and even getting in touch with our femininity. And the whole purpose of the Don't Let the Heroes Fool You is just to bring awareness that these just what it says, don't let these heels fool you. There's more to us, but sometimes we need that even for ourselves, because sometimes as women we can be so hard and we can be so callous and we can always be so feel like we need to be tough and have it all together all the time. And when we don't have it together, sometimes we're the hardest on ourselves. And then sometimes it makes us hard in relationships, not just romantic, but relationships in general. It makes it hard for us to submit. It makes us hard for us to humble ourselves in some situations. And as a woman, it's okay for us to do that. Do that too. You're being feminine doesn't mean, or even being tough and strong. We don't have to be tough all the time. We don't have to be strong all the time. We don't have to have it all together. And we have to be okay even in that if we're crying, if we're weak, it's not weak. It's just we have emotions, we have feelings. So let's touch on the being willing to humble ourselves and submit ourselves sometimes, because sometimes we get a little high and mighty. Them high heels got us our heads up a little too high sometimes. And sometimes it happens when we're used to having to be independent and we're always been independent. So how do we find that balance? How do we find I can still be independent, but it's okay to acknowledge, oh, I need some help, or I can't do this all by myself. I need to go here. I need my man. I love my husband. I love my man. I'm not one of them women who say I don't need. I got my man, my man. Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna have a moment to be transparent. I grew up with all brothers and a whole lot of uncles, so them hills wasn't always there. They came a little later on in my life as I decided who I wanted to be, not what my experiences and my upbringing lead me to be, but who I wanted to be. And first and foremost, who I wanted to be in God. So that's when that submissiveness and those hills really came into place, because I wanted to honor God in my whole life. And that meant, growing up in a very male-dominated family, understanding, my role as a woman first. And like you said, that independent attitude and, just doing everything. And I'm not a two-trip person. If I come out the car with some bags, you better believe I'm not
Exactly.
I'm taking 3 in one hand and 4 in another. But really, just being more patient with myself, because guess what? I might need to make 2 trips. And you know what? I might need to go and ask for help. Can you help me bring in the other bags, instead of just really taking all that on when sometimes I don't have to.
Yeah. There's also, I think, a root to things as well.
Absolutely.
I think encouraging to explore that of like, okay, well, why? Like, why am I so independent? Why can't I be humble and just ask for help? There's roots to everything. And I think finding the root of your why kind of starts you on the path of just a healthier journey in that, and accepting the help and being humble and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's a root to everything. For me, of course, talking to people, but for me, my source always is God. Like there's times in every situation when I would find myself, why am I having such a hard time submitting to this? Or why am I getting such an attitude with this? Or because sometimes we make it like it's the other person when I'm like, it's not, it's me. So why do I have the attitude about this? I'm really going to the Lord and figuring out, Lord, when this and that and the third is happening, this is how I'm feeling. And I don't know why. Can you help me figure it out, or whatever it is, so that we can begin to heal and deal with it and move forward? To transparent moment, when I first got married, there were some things that I didn't realize were there. For some reason, I had a difficult time. I understood my husband was head and lead, but there was just still a certain way that I wanted things and liked things. And it could have been the pettiest thing. And I found myself always, if he wanted to do it, in my mind, yeah, I appreciated it, but it still wasn't the way I wanted it. So it wasn't good enough. And it still got the same outcome. But it was just the fact that, it wasn't the way I wanted it, the way I would have did it. So it wasn't good enough. And I'm like, but why? he lives in this house too. It's like, because there are some men who wouldn't care and wouldn't want to help. And my husband wants to help and wants to do this stuff. So why am I getting an attitude or feeling some type of way? Or other little stupid things where he's saying something and a simple yes would suffice. But I can't just say a simple yes. It's some little snarky, smart aleck remark when I'm like, but for what? What is the reason that I'm doing it? And it's like, oh, you have an issue with him telling you something. And it's not like he's telling you what to do, but for some reason I'm internalizing, was taking it as in, oh, you think I'm a child and you're telling me what to do, and I don't want to be told what to do. And then I really had to go to the Lord. I'm like, because I don't want to, because imagine how I may have made him feel. There's times where I wanted something a certain way. He could have been taking it as, oh, I'm reprimanding him like he's a child. He don't want to be told what to do either. So it was figuring out how to communicate appropriately and even expressing when I am feeling something. That way we can talk about it. There's a lot of times, a lot of things are resolved by just having the conversation. Yeah. It's just hey, I was feeling this, or I felt that, or I know you didn't mean it that way. This is how I felt when this, and the third. And you come to a common ground and no, that's not what he meant, or that's exactly what he meant. But this is the reason why it's one of those things. But you need.
I said what I said when I said.
It is what it is, and you learn to grow. But for me, the main source, and for me, I would say how we figure out how to be willing to sometimes humble ourselves, is to just do that, to humble ourselves and really go to God and ask him. If you ask him, he will answer. He's shown me a lot of stuff about myself. That's one of the things I've learned the most in marriage. It wasn't so much learning about my husband. It was learning about me and the stuff that I'm like, you could adjust in that area, or you could have said that better, or you could have said that nicer, or your tone was a little, or you was just flat out wrong and you need to go apologize, and being okay with going to apologize. And the thing is, apologizing sometimes is so hard. At first we make it harder than it actually is, but once you just, I'm sorry, it just liberates you. Me anyway, it's just like, how hard was that, just to say, you were right, I'm sorry.
I know one of the biggest misconceptions for me is being allowed to say should. Someone should do this or they should do that. I took that word out of my vocabulary because should puts me in a position to be in control of whatever it is. So if I say should, that's totally based on my perspective and not the other person's. What I should do or can do, maybe that other person can't. So should, it caused me to have expectations, which guess what? If they don't, meet the expectation, now I'm disappointed. So should was definitely a word that I definitely had to reflect on how I use it and when I use it in terms of communicating, because everybody doesn't communicate the same way. Everybody doesn't feel the same way. They have their own experiences based on what they grew up with, based on what they've been through. So one of the things for me and communicating more effectively and in a healthy way, which is taking should out of it, because I'm like, well, you should be doing it, and really, no, maybe they don't know that what you feel is, or maybe their perspective is different.
Yeah. And I can't speak from a place of marriage because I'm not married, but as a, being a single mom, raising my son in that level of independency. And so I was, used to doing everything. Now I had family support, but, used to doing everything, on my own. So to be able to multitask and make sure. Now, I've never, ever tried to fulfill the role of his father because I'm not a man. But as much as I could, to influence as his mother. But I was just thinking about, I can remember one time I went to a wedding with someone, a male friend of mine, and I'm just so used to doing me. So I jumped out the car. He was attempting to open the car door for me, but I jumped out myself. And then it was raining. So he got an umbrella and I'm like 6 steps ahead of him, right? Because I'm just in my zone. I'm just used to just doing me. He was literally lightly jogging behind me with this umbrella. And he finally stopped me. He grabs me and he said, Kara, like, you made me feel like I'm your adjutant. Like, we're here together. Like, I said, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. But I had to think because I'm so used to doing things of my own. So I had to learn how, even as a parent, though my son is grown now, but even then there were times as a parent where and as a mother, where I, made mistakes, and I had to humble myself, as a woman, as a mother, and say, you know what, that was wrong. I'm sorry. And so I appreciate that as a woman. I think God has graced us to, I think what Jaleesa was speaking about, communication. We know how to communicate effectively, right? We will send you like a 6-paragraph text to let you know how we feel.
But is that effective though?
Right.
Sometimes
It's
we
not
communicate
effective.
and then
It's
it's not
not
effective.
effective. It's
Right.
not effective, but we'll get it off our chest, and we may have to go back later and go through. But just the fact that we are willing and ever ready, you know what I'm saying, at times. I won't say all women, but most at times willing to communicate. And it's something else when I think Reverend Maria was speaking of I'm sorry, because I don't have my glasses on, and I'm sorry, I keep calling you Reverend Maria. Reverend Marcia, I apologize for that.
Okay.
About crying. And I was sitting there, I was thinking how, crying, isn't a sign of emotional instability. And sometimes, people, or, men at times, particularly if you're in leadership, right? They can view that as some sort of, it can be viewed as emotional instability. And it's not a sign of weakness, but it is a sign of strength. It really is. Well, I like with Ms. Graham mentioned about it's life. When you cry, it's a sign of life. So being a woman, sometimes we just feel as though that, we have to hold our emotions because we do not want to be viewed or judged, as being, unstable or incapable, because there's empathy or some sort of, compassion. And I have grown in my life that, it is okay to be me. And I am, proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be a Black woman. And I am so proud to be a Black Christian woman, single mother who raised her son to fear the Lord with heels. And I said, you know what? I wear high heels because I like them, not I'm expected to wear them as a woman.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? There was a time
like
where
that.
you expected to dress,
Mhm.
to put this dress on. You expect, no, I wear them because I like them, not because I'm expected, because I'm not going to fit in anyone's box, but I'm
Yeah.
going to be, who I am, and grow into that place.
Yes. Let me acknowledge some of our audience here. There was a few that came in earlier. Didn't really get to fully acknowledge. Miss Deborah Dozier says she's tuning in. Cash, good evening. Thank you for joining us. And we have Miss Smartell. Good evening. And Tiffany, she had a question. She wanted to know our opinion. She said, I'm enjoying this discussion. There's something going around from a certain camp which says empathy is a sin. And she wanted to know our opinions on that. I mean, I haven't heard that empathy is a sin. I mean, I do think we've kind of touched on it, that's, if anything, a strength of
Yeah.
humans in general. But since we're
Yeah.
talking about women, that's a strength to be able to empathize and connect with people. Anybody else have any opinion?
I don't feel like it's a sin why they're saying that. No, empathy helps me identify or be in touch with not only my own feelings, but if somebody's sharing theirs with me. Because if you can't identify, understand, or connect with what someone is saying, especially in certain positions, again, Carlene is a therapist, I do counseling. I can't advise you, I can't counsel you wisely with the soundest advice possible if I can't even relate or identify to with what you're saying. If I don't have any empathy and I don't care about what you're saying, you'll get comments like, oh, well, just get over it. That was in the past, or you should be over that now. Just get over it instead of go through the process that you need to heal, to be free, whatever all the things may be that you need. I can't figure out for the life of me how the sin aspect would come in unless somebody just doesn't know what empathy means.
I mean, I
Right.
think if
Empathy is
maybe they're
so-
coming from a, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say empathy is like the compass for compassion. It leads you to open up your compassionate spirit in a way to help or support someone, putting yourself in their shoes and kind of offering that compassion to help them going through what they're going through. So to say that's a sin, I'm not sure, what, where that came from in that sense.
I was just gonna say maybe the heart posture part. Like if someone's expressing something to you and your plan is to use it against them or to run and tell somebody else, then I can see how it could be a sin, but I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think that would be the right word for it, but definitely heart posture is key.
You do have to guard your heart now. The Bible
Right.
says
Yeah. And I think that's what's missing in humanity, period, is empathy,
Yeah.
the ability to understand, and even though it may not be the same experience, but just to have the willingness to understand. And so, yeah, I don't agree with that at all. And I think, Camille hit on the nail when she said, I think the word sin is definitely the wrong term or the word just to say with that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you think about scripture, Paul said we must become all things to all men.
Mm-hmm.
In them. And I think that's a form of being empathetic, to be able to, be willing to understand. I'm willing to understand how you feel. I'm willing to understand your culture, not compromise, but to understand. And so, Jesus showed empathy, sympathy, and empathy.
I was
So,
just getting ready to say that.
yeah.
Where it says, and he was moved with compassion, and his compassion caused him to respond a certain way towards someone's need. That's empathetic. Even when it says he was like us, tempted on all points, yet without sin, he's able to identify with the emotions, the experiences that we have, so that he shows how, but I already made a way of escape, and I can show you how to be an overcomer, because this is how I overcame. So I would like to know why the person's thought process, how they got to it being a sin. But no, I don't think it's a sin.
Yeah.
If it
We're
is,
gonna-
all the five of us sitting here are,
Okay.
because we're all pathetic.
Right. Yeah. We're going to get into, because we touched on it at the top of the show, and Kara just said it again about being all things to all people. I'm going to acknowledge some more people in the comments. We're going to go there in our role as women, how we're able to be. I don't want to say I get the term, because we can't really be all things to all people, but we know how to, in all the different roles that we fill, we know how to adjust depending on what the title is, what the position is. So I want y'all to gather y'all's thoughts together, think about the different roles and how we're able to, hey, I know this person, I may not be able to talk to you this way, but I have to do this. So get y'all thoughts together. I'm going to finish interacting with some of the audience we have here. I see Miss Pine. She said, some can tell when you're sincere, and it helps them to open up to you when you show empathy. Said, I agree with Minister Marcia. And also, y'all, while y'all in the comments, I see Tiffany, she did already, but if you haven't already, could you please tell us where you're from and where you're commenting from? Thank you. Tiffany in Louisville, Kentucky. There were some other people I didn't get to acknowledge. Tisha Williams, good evening. Thank you for joining us. And I believe that's Taria Smith. Good evening. Connie, she had a comment back to when Carlene was talking about the word should. She said, wow, taking should out of the vocabulary. It really helps us. Sometimes we come into things with expectations, and then we feel some type of way when those expectations weren't met, but we never verbalized what it was we needed, or what it was wanted, or what it was we feeling. So now you feeling some type of way, like, oh, well, you should have, or I thought you would have, or you should have. I'm like, but how would they know if we never said anything?
We never know.
Okay. All right. Miss Dozier is in Pleasantville. All right, Pville. All right. And I see Miss Melinda here, and I see someone from Raleigh, North Carolina. Come on, keep bringing them in. Oh, that was all of them? All right. We have a question here. What does empathy and advocacy look like in leadership today? In today's times when it is viewed as either being too soft or too hard. So, what does empathy and advocacy look like in leadership in today's times when it is viewed as being too soft or too hard?
There's a certain emotional intelligence you have to have in leadership. Um, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
I work in a school, a middle school at that, with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So I have to balance that responsibility daily. And it takes a lot of self-reflection, adhering to boundaries, and being able to, because sometimes too much empathy is not healthy either.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Create codependency, countertransferency. So really having a balance and a boundary to what that looks like, and really having that emotional intelligence to determine what's enough and what's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And I'm sure it takes knowing your students and or the people that you may be advocating for. Sometimes you really personality, but their character too. That helps you find,
Mhm.
it helps me find the balance. First of all, with what I would say to them, and also always include the accountability aspect toward the one. Because if you're
Always.
advocating for someone, means you're going between something for
Mhm.
them. And a lot of times, like Carlene just said, they'll get so codependent where, oh, first of all, they'll think you're going to do everything for them, even speak for them, or all I
And
have
they
to do.
do.
They'll people learn to manipulate it too. You know
Mhm.
what I
Mhm.
mean? Like they come and they whatever the situation is, it can be presented to you as they're the victim. So this is why I don't want to do and anything to them. And there have been times, even with adults, but I have to say, well, first of all, when you're telling me the story, don't only tell me the part where you're the victim. Tell me what you did, because
Mhm.
sometimes things are
Yep.
responses to what
Yeah.
Mhm.
we've said or what someone said to us, and then you counsel them, but also again with the accountability. Well, you could have said this like this or did this, so now this is what we have to do, or this is what you have to do. I'll be there with you for moral support if you want me to, especially if it involves having to straighten out something with a third person or a third party. They may not want to go by themselves. Actors involved, they don't have the maturity, the restraint to remain respectful or calm when they're speaking, so someone else being there. And I don't want to use the word coach, but kind of remind them or get them back in line when you're going off too far. Let's stick with the topic or the subject at hand. Don't keep rehashing something, but you have to be the middle person with the balance and the accountability aspect, and knowing that person's character and personality helps you do that, because you can still identify with them and sometimes say, I can understand why you would feel that way, but this is what they meant. Because sometimes people react their perception instead
Mhm.
of the perspective.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like to add that my experience, with ministry, with counsel, and even at work, that people, truth balances everything. Truth brings
Mm-hmm.
accountability, and how you present the truth really matters. And it can be wrapped in empathy as well as uh, very direct and call some sort of accountability and those boundaries as well. And so truth and honesty really, to me, in my experience, has really brought great balance to where I'm not too hard and I'm not too soft, but
Mhm.
you bring people to a decision and assist them in making a decision. And for me, that always came by through truth. And so that has assisted, me as far as in leadership.
Mhm.
I wanted to piggyback on what Reverend Marcia said, because that's very important. When you're leading with empathy, you have to be careful because people could take advantage of it. And when you're putting yourself in someone's shoes, you got to be careful not to trigger your own self too. So
Mhm.
there are boundaries. You have to be self-aware and definitely be mindful of what's going on and, how to keep that balance.
Yes, definitely. We have another question here. Pastor Hamid, you are full of questions. Thank you, production.
Always.
I will get to the cities towards the end. Thank you. Um, there was another question. It used to be when a woman was wearing heels, they carried some kind of shoes in their bag. Do you carry any other shoes? If so, what kind and why? So, question
Yes.
was, do you carry any other shoes? If so, and why? I would say yes. I think
Yeah.
we all
Flats, because
do.
we're not trying to be on that pitch for hours on end, because again, it is a balancing act, and
I
it
like that.
becomes stressful. Like when you're on that angle for too long, it puts pressure on other parts of your feet and your back and maybe other parts of your body. And I think to have another pair of shoes with you is exercising wisdom, because there have been times I've been in heels in the sanctuary, but we had something going downstairs in the dining room and the kitchen, and I can't move around as efficiently in heels as I can in flats or for as long of a time. Change them while I'm doing that kind of work. And then when it's time to go back upstairs and do something, if my feet will allow, I'll put my heels back on. But if not, I'll leave my flats on, because that's what wisdom dictates. I need to be able to get through the rest of what I need to do. And I don't want to be distracted by the pain or discomfort of heels. So I do carry flats so I can move, and I move faster with flats on than I do heels.
Mm-hmm.
She preaching.
Now I have to self-reflect now because I don't have no flats and wonder why I'm torturing myself. Why am I inflicting this pain? Because I really do not have an extra pair. I do not.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's, like I said before, like just not having the patience and the hustle and bustle of just, putting, things on and having so many things to do, so many responsibilities that I forget my shoes.
I think it's what mommy said. It's the same thing. It's wisdom. And I think it's knowing the circumstances in the situation. If I'm going somewhere where I know I don't really need flat shoes, then I don't have them. But if it's something where I know it's going to be a longer day and I may be doing other things or I may have to change them out, then I definitely have a different pair or a flatter pair that I may put on. There's sometimes at the end of a day, I have flats just as my feet and legs are tired just from walking in the heels and being in the heels all day. But that goes into knowing ahead of time to go a lot of things, knowing the situation, knowing what's going on. And if you're talking about shoes metaphorically, it goes to what we've been talking about this whole time of the different roles, different situations, different things that we're a part of and we have to be in, and discerning and having wisdom of knowing, okay, I need to approach this way, or I need to be prepared for this and adjust to this way. The same way we are in relationships, of knowing how to communicate with certain people, how to respond to certain things a certain way. Because there are some people where you can be just straight no chaser, and there's others where you can tell the truth, but it can't punch as hard. You have to find a colorful way to say it so that they can accept it a little better. Then there's times where you have to be funny and jovial. There's times where, and as women, can we be freed and stop thinking that we're being fake or phony? If someone says, oh, I don't know that side, we don't express every facet and every part of ourselves to every single person.
That is so true.
Some people we're not in that type of relationship. We're not at that type of, some people see you in a leadership position. If you're a leader, they may not know you as Kiki friend, you're how you are with somebody else, because I'm your leader. We're not on the same playing field. We're not on the same level. In the same way how you may be in relationships, even within families, you may not be the same way with every single family member, and that is okay. Just because we're family does not mean we're going to have the same level of relationship. Some we're closer with, some you go in seasons where you're real close and you may not talk as much, but it's okay. You're not being fake, you're not being phony with the, oh, well, you like this with them, because that's the type of relationship we have. Just because I don't have that with you don't mean I don't love you. We just don't have that type of relationship. Let's focus on what we do have over here that I may not express with them over there. So
Yeah.
anybody else?
I was going to bring
I think somebody should come
up
up with a
I'll bring that up earlier, Julie's, about the stereotypes, because that's a stereotype. They think they see you with one way with one person and then say, oh, there she is, or that's the real her. And it could be you being more serious with somebody else. And you have to know who you are. It comes with confidence, and sometimes experience will make you more confident once you go through those situations or conversations with people, and you just learn to say, oh, that's me too. That's me too. Like when I said earlier, when certain people see me in sneakers, or we can be having an event at church that's not a service, but say like we have a fundraiser coming up and it's a hoagie sale. I don't wear my church outfit to the hoagie sale fundraiser because I'm making hoagies and the food. I have on jeans and sneakers, and somebody will say, oh, you look cute. Seeing you like that. I said, whose people? That's because they don't come where I am. I don't go where they are. The only time they have seen me is probably if they came to church. So I wear certain clothing to church that I don't wear to the football game. But if I'm going to the football game after church, I'm going in my church clothes because I'm not going all the way back home to change all that. It's a stereotype. People already have a preconceived, sometimes a misconceived notion in their mind of how we are, how we should look, how we should be. So when they see another aspect of your personality that, oh, I didn't know you were like that. Well, whenever you see me, we're only in a business meeting, so I'm not telling jokes then. Or some people are in a leadership position up front where you have to speak to people. Then they see you in another setting and you're really quiet. It's like, I didn't know that you were so quiet, or you don't talk that much. And sometimes I've had to say, or they were like, it's so quiet in here, talk or say something. And I just say, I just don't feel like every space has to be filled with sound. Like I don't have to talk. It's okay. I'm good with silence, but those are stereotypes, or they put limitations on you. Where somebody got in my car one time and the radio was on, and it was on an R&B station. Because I like listening to the R&B station sometimes too. And it's like, listen to this kind of music, or you only listen to this kind of music. And it used to be a time where I would go into like trying to explain why it's on that station instead of just less is best. I like the station. No, I don't only listen to it. But this is your first time getting in my car, so why would you make this sweeping generalization like that? No, but if I say, do you ever listen to gospel music? Well, what you mean? And I just have to say, that's how people feel when you know them to be a leader in whatever area it is. You think that's the only interest they have. No, those are stereotypes and limitations, and only I get to set limitations where I'm not going to go. And that's in the area of temperance and as far as things relating to God. But people do just see you one way in one venue, and they think that's all there is to you. And it's just not true. You have to get to know us. And again, we have different degrees of relationships with different people. Sometimes just time alone that you've known the people is why you have a certain degree of relationship with them. It's not an exclusion of having a closer relationship with you. We just don't right now because we don't know each other like that, or we're not around each other like that, or you don't come to my area where I live, meaning the things that I do, or that's the only area that you do see me. But we do other things, like we wear more than heels.
Yes.
I think having confidence and living in your true authenticity, it really, plays to, who you are to different people, and feeling comfortable in that.
Amen. Y'all, we have come to the end of the show already.
So soon.
So soon. Yo, I forgot to acknowledge some. We did have Raleigh, North Carolina. We had Concord, North Carolina. We had Wildwood, New Jersey. We had Mays Landing, New Jersey, and another Mays Landing, New Jersey that joined us this evening. And I know I saw my cousin Shadra. I can't remember where she is, but she's somewhere down down there
In Virginia.
in Virginia, I think. So it was a wonderful conversation. We will be back next week. It'll be another all ladies edition. You will have to stay tuned and you'll have to just join us next week to figure out what we're talking about. It'll be another great conversation. But if I tell you now, then you'll probably decide, oh, I don't want to hear that, so I won't join. So you have to actually come next week so that you can hear what the topic is going to be. To my panel, my co-host, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope you'll be able to be back next week so we can continue another conversation, y'all. If you haven't already, as we always say, to please like, please share, please, you already commented, but share it, like it. If you're following us and watching us on YouTube, please think about subscribing to us on YouTube. That way, you know, every time that we post a video, you'll be able to look back and see some of the other videos. They change things on Facebook, so you're not going to be able to see this for after 30 days. So make sure you follow us on YouTube. And as always here, we are building hope. We are transforming lives 24/7 right here at Sound Gospel Radio. I'll see y'all next week.
Building hope. Transforming lives. 24/7. Sound Gospel Radio.